to DameSmiff.
Yeah, give me the loot, give me the truth, give me the bass, give me the drop, give me the truth, give me the you, give me the hate. I'm making it hot when in the booth. I spit the truth, I open doors, you got it unlocked. She like to shoot, get to the loot, you play the games, I make it pop. I got the moves, you peep the tunes, we're not the same, you probably flop. Point the shooters, looky lookers, haters hate, poppers pop. Run into the game, why stop? It'd be a shame that I'm not on top. She said, Dame, you're my favorite, cause when you play this, the haters, they see me working, but I'm making play and then they ate it. I really hate it, I really hate it, I hate it. They tried to play us, I know they hate us, but they faking. I spit it straight in, I'm never chasing. She love it, she measure taped it, but never taped it. She bugging, she peep the greatness, she know who Dame is, she love it. I have to say this, mommy, hold up, let me tell you something. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, 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 baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Yeah, she shook the tambourine for this. Pose, magazine with this. If I spit some real, mix it in the beans a bit. What she think I'm about to scheme a bit? Yo, peep the scene a bit, baby lean a bit. That thing got a mean sit. I got the flow to make a genie wish. These jeans are split, so what? I got you rockin' to a beat that kicks. I got the big dog flow, you spittin' drool for me. That's why she grip mine, make the gym a pool for me. 25 years, no jewelry. Diamonds over veggies wasn't cool to me. She such a problem, make a fool of me. Never allow it, got the juice for free. She pulled me close, said you know who I be. Some people in this world say we be I.E. but love. Let's not play favorites, baby. Yeah. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, 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 baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. She said, Dame, you're my favorite, cause when you play this, the haters, they see me working, but I make it play and then they ate it. I really hate it, I really hate it, I hate it. They try to play us, I know they hate us, but they faking. Dame, you're my favorite, cause when you play this, the haters, they see me working, but I make it play and then they ate it. I really hate it, I really hate it, I hate it. They try to play us, I know they hating, but they faking. I pop the greatness, the heavy weightless, the flow is brainless, the dead awakens, what she thinking? The pot's a banger, she hesitating, hips are shaking. I guess they making the decisions like your favorite player. I'm not a player, I'm just a prayer, rhythm slayer. Another day, what you say? She moves away, I peek the sway, I make the player. I got the gamer, I got the game, I got the gamer. She said they hate us, but never say us. Rollick was the grip when she gripped the laser. Make me forget about the better days. I got this picture in my head and I don't know who made her. She think I'm crazy like a holiday you never heard of. Put that thing in hold, call me the operator. Don't let me go, baby stay up. Yeah, a little longer to the elevator. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, 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 baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Let's not play favorites, baby. Pose magazine with this. Yeah, Pose magazine with this. Pose magazine with this. Yeah, bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Yeah, just make it count. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Yeah, just make it count. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Just make it count. Yeah. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Just make it count. Yeah. I don't text, I don't flex. I keep it grounded. My whole test. What goes next? We work it out like Bo Flex. A swole chest. You hear the sound. Her glows next. I flows best. You slow it down. She lift weight. A straight face. Don't make a sound. A full plate. Don't hesitate. She'll put you down. I'm at the gate. She said, wait. I'm coming down. We hit skate. A move made. She coming now. Scholar, baby, hear me. Roger, see me lately. Pushing harder. Ride it, baby. Take it. Father, ride it, baby. Take it. Father, push up like Daddy Dame got the hook up. You shook up. She felt the thing and made it look up. I'm booked up. You playing games for the shook up. She see her dance moves. Look at where they took her. I got the flow to make her wanna change her name though. You got the dough, but she really wants you to change though. Deep and slow, take your time, girl, it's your game though. Hoes act differently in the presence of Dame though. I keep a mood in the pocket for the game though. I let it change, now you watch it for the fame though. I watch her move, work it, mommy, do your thing though. Another blessing shooting down from the range though. Bounce, baby, work it, ride, bounce, baby, twerk, try. She see me fluent from the sky. Stay with me, this might be the night that I die. The flow is never stopping, little homie. Don't you try my body in the way, so I know we can't see eye to eye. She said, Dame, I see how you got me mesmerized. You free your lame, integrity never jeopardized. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Yeah, just make it count. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Put it in the air, just make it count. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Make it count. Just make it count. Yeah. Bounce to the ounce. Put it in the air, make it count. Yeah. Just make it count, girl. Make it count. Check it out. Yeah. What's going on, Mo? It's your boy DameSmiff, and we are out here today, and we're about to have a quick conversation about how marriage and relationships and love and dating and things like that can affect your music career, and what kind of effect it's really going to have on you, your fans, the bottom line, and of course the music. So if you like conversations like this, make sure you hit the like button. That will tell everybody that this video is dope. And then also make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can catch all of my latest videos and streams like this. So as we're getting into things, when we're having this conversation, a lot of it, you're going to probably have, certain perspectives, certain beliefs on things like that. But just keep in mind that a lot of what you're going to see is, I guess you can say, case by case, right? Not everybody's going to have the same experience, and not everybody's going to really have like the same desired outcome. And that's the key thing here, right? So we're going to see kind of like different perspectives on the outcomes of marriages and relationships. And then we're also going to see, I guess you can say, the logical outcomes of relationships and marriage. And so let's get into it. And I want to also introduce a few of the different topics and kind of like an understanding of what we're getting into as far as the theme for the clips that I'm grabbing here today. So we're going to dissect a delicate intersection of domestic life and professional longevity in the music industry. So essentially how relationships and marriages are leveraged in the music industry specifically, right? Not necessarily how we feel about the spouse or the spouses feel about each other, but how it affects the careers in the music industry. And also, we'll analyze a couple high profile, I guess you could say, cases of this, like Key and Peele, which actually just blew up very recently and from a third party. And we'll also look at the classic Beatles story. Let me know in the comments if you know where I'm going with that one. And then, of course, we'll look at some mergers of like Tim McGraw and Faith Hill and things like that. So as we get into these things, we're going to have to really take our like perspective on marriage and things like that with a grain of salt as we look at these things, because it's just observing these stories for their lessons, essentially. So let's get into the first one here.
I always thought it was weird that Jordan Peele wrote, produced, and directed all these great movies as of lately, like Get Out and Us, but he never put Keegan, aka Key, in any of these movies, especially since they worked together for so long. And when Key was asked about his relationship with Jordan Peele a couple of years ago in 2024, Keegan said that him and Jordan Peele don't really see each other as much or talk as much anymore. And I always thought, man, they seem really close when they work together. And you would think if you guys have a dynamic duo and a history as dynamic as those two, they would at least have some type of partnership in something that lasted a lifetime.
And we see this over and over and over again, right? We see it in boy bands, girl groups, clearly here with the actors and the comedians and things like that. But what do you think went wrong as far as why they don't talk anymore, right? Because you would think like the obvious, like maybe, you know, somebody came into the relationship between the two of them, or maybe somebody was moving money incorrectly, or maybe somebody felt slighted. You know, you could think of the obvious things. But what does it really mean when what he's describing as great chemistry on screen and great chemistry in the studio turns into almost a situation where you are avoiding each other?
But that was not the case. But today we finally got our answer as to why these two don't really work with each other anymore, nor do they talk. And the answer, to be honest, was right in front of us the entire time, because the answer was also the script to one of Jordan Peele's probably his most popular movie ever. And hopefully you guys will be able to figure out which movie gave us insight into why Jordan Peele and Key don't talk anymore. Key and Peele's entire business got revealed today through a stand-up show with a scriptwriter / comedian by the name of Akila. So Akila and Key was supposed to do some type of show together. And during the process of getting this show on the run and filming the pilot, she accidentally ran across the reason why Key and Peele don't talk as much and would never work together again.
You know.
Okay, so before we get into her perspective on this story, do you see already how like volatile your career is just by introducing a relationship? Like yesterday we were talking about a lot of different things, but yesterday we were talking about how relationships and things like that can affect you in a variety of ways, like how you're going to be networking with people and things like that, right? But do you see how the representation you have has to be damn near watertight, like a naval ship? Otherwise, you'll have a situation which we're about to see where someone is basically expressing the details of what's going on in the business, right? Now that's important to understand because, like I said, how you feel about marriages and how you feel about information being shared and who says what where and things like that all changes when you consider who's talking and things like that, right? So now when we're considering that, let's consider, let's say, Michael Keegan Key, his feelings, right, in the situation, right? He's not the one that's introducing a relationship, essentially, and he's also not the one that's introducing, let's say, creative opportunities for the group, right? He's kind of like a free agent in the sense of it's a partnership, right? So now when you have this situation and you're introducing, let's say, a third party, a spouse, do you see how it affects everything?
I realized I liked making sketch comedy. I liked having the big production behind it. I was tired of being like a self-starter. I wanted to sell out. And I got the opportunity. A few of my friends who work for different television shows came to me and they said, do you want to make a sketch comedy show, your star vehicle?
Another thing we need to stop seeing is that I don't know if it's just a comedian thing, but musicians do this too. But we need to stop using our like intimate personal details as performance material.
Where, you know, it'll be you and you'll be writing about, you know, the media and misinformation, but like through the lens of sketch comedy. And I was like, yes, but I need someone to help usher me in. And so one of those friends said, hey, I've got a great person to give you this opportunity. He is, and I don't think this is too shady, I think it's true, the less successful half of a comedy duo that was prolific in the 2010s. Perhaps, you know, I think their code names could be Locke and Banana. And Locke is gonna use his name to carry you to the forefront of pop culture. And so we came up with a pitch. We practiced it. It was like so good. I mean, like not only is there a keynote presentation, but there are videos. We get one of the people pitching with us to go on Pierce Morgan and force him to say the tagline from the show, unwittingly. We are selling the show all over town. And, you know, we get a few offers, which is like a feeling that like is unlike any other, where you're like, we are wanted.
Everything is going perfect until Akilah gets notified of something. And this right here, for the ones who are smart and who are tapped in, this is where you figure out exactly which movie Jordan Peele wrote about Key and which movie was essentially breaking down the current circumstance that Key is in and why him and Jordan Peele don't really communicate. So Akilah gets notified, hey, Key's wife is the executive producer on y'all show with Key, even though she has no hand in anything. She's not producing. She has done nothing for the show, but she's the executive producer.
So do you see what happened here, right? Just in an instance, we just learned that there's already a discrepancy in like creative liberties, who has control over the business and who has leverage over what's going to happen with their ideas, right? So now, like I said, do you see how this affects everything? But also, how should you move in this situation? Like when we were talking about Yolanda and Selena, when you realize, oh shit, this is the almost going to be the outcome of everything. What do you think is going to be the outcome if you don't make a change, or if at least you don't address it, right? And so now you have a situation kind of like with Selena and Yolanda, where if you do address it, will you lose everything?
Akilah was like, huh? She was confused, but she went along with it. Little did she know that was the point where she should have put her foot down, because that mistake of just going along with it at that point ruined everything for her.
Do you see the theme here? The same thing with Selena, just kind of going along with it, giving grace to the behavior and things like that. Not that there's any victim blaming, but you have to be kind of like when you see, I guess you can say, gang members and things like that, like in the criminal world, how there's like a very, very, very high cost for bad behavior in their world, in their culture. For some reason in musician culture, we kind of like really want to relate to bad behavior and give really good grace to bad behavior, or like bad decisions, really. So just remember, there's a trope out there to never mix business and family. But if you're seeing what we're seeing right now on what she's calling a high production or a high level production, that goes to show you that that same principle is not being upheld. So if you believe in that principle, that's why I say you got to remove how you feel about marriages and stuff like that. It's going to go directly against what you expect to get from this business venture. It's
coming together. And during the pitch process, Locke gets his dream. He's asked to host SNL. And he does. And we have this agreement. We're like, and you're going to say the name of the show. You're just going to put it in there at the end when you're doing your thank yous at the end of SNL. And we should have known then that, like, he didn't say it. And it was, like, the only thing he had to say. But there were some things he said that were, like, weird, and thanking his wife, who becomes a weird main character in this whole story. And so my agent at the time calls me, and she goes, how is pitching going? How do people feel about Locke? And I'm like, oh, my God, they love him. Everybody loves Locke. And she's like, that's great, that's great. How do they feel about his wife, who is now somehow the executive producer on my show? And I'm like, I hadn't really thought about it. I don't think people like her very much. And she's like, yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And I'm like, okay. So like, are you saying like, we're not gonna be able to sell this? Or she's like, listen, people like you and they like Locke. It'll come together. And so I forgive this sort of moment. But that should have been the red flag where I said, hey, maybe we like pause this. We haven't sold it yet. We're all still free. Let's just recalibrate. Not me. I was like, no, because it's more important to have a celebrity attached. So we keep going. We get 2 offers. One, kind of mid. The other from a major studio that I won't name because I don't want to be sued. But you can imagine that their
See, that's what I mean. Like, you don't want to be sued, but you're gonna tell the story.
main character is vermin, if you think about it. If he was in your house, you wouldn't like that. But if he was at a theme park, you might be excited to see him. So we signed the deal. We are locked in. We are getting several figures. It's all gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
The first person who gave her a call when this was announced, the first person who gave her a call to let her know, hey, you're getting yourself in something you don't know what's coming, bruh. You should be very careful. The first person to give her a call is Jordan Peele's wife. Jordan Peele's wife gave her a call, and the first thing she said was, hey, you're working with Keenan, which is, it's Keegan, right? You're working with Keegan. Now, he's a really, really, really good dude. He's a really, really, really nice guy. But his wife, who, by the way, is a white woman. Now, that right there, color means nothing, but that right there like plays a part, especially when we're trying to figure out which movie Jordan Peele wrote about Key. His wife is white. And with that clue, a lot of you guys probably already figured out, okay, exactly why. But, hey, yo, that white woman will ruin your life. She is a absolute, she's horrific to work with. You want to be very careful around her. She will ruin everything. Her ego is this, and that.
So do you see already how like this is affecting Keegan? Now Keegan-Michael Key is the bald man that's tall and thinner, right? The shorter man with glasses, that's Jordan, right? And I believe they're both married. And I believe they're both married to white women, I believe. I don't know. I can look it up. But the thing is that either way, the point is that do you see how her behavior or her, I guess you can say, disposition in the industry is being affected or is affecting her husband, right? Now, it has very little to do with his acting talent. It has very little to do with what people think of him. She literally said he's a great guy and he's awesome. And the issue is that they are represented as a unit now. So basically they're saying if you work with him, you have to work with his wife, who apparently is executive producing some of the products they're making. So you almost have to work with her, right? So how much of what your decision making when it comes to who you're dating, who you're marrying, and things like that plays into your career, right? Do you think Keegan-Michael Key feels this way about his wife? Do you think there's a situation where maybe the wife is perhaps the one actually in control? And if that's the case, as the, I guess you can say, artist or entertainer in this situation, what should Keegan do? What should Jordan do? Now, I don't know why Jordan would make a movie about, his homeboy's, home life, but that's here nor there. What we really need to figure out is, how did he get in this situation where now he's suddenly getting bad stigmatized information on his resume based on the proximity of the person he chose to marry? So
again, I'll be real. If I got a call like that too, and I just signed like a 7-figure deal with Key, I'm man, bro, get your hand ass from off the phone, bro. I would have had to see it for myself too. So don't blame the her. You called me talking trash about a dude who just got me 7 figures, man. Hop off my phone for I tell. That's how I would have reacted. So she, for the most part, ain't do nothing that I wouldn't have done, right? Now, it's also noted here, by the way, that Keegan was already well accomplished. He was already wildly successful
I think he was doing like commercials and stuff too by this time too, and already in his own movies.
Before meeting this wife of his. So this wife of his is not like, yo, she was somebody who held him down from day one and who's the crucial part about why no, this is somebody he met after he was already wildly successful, which is why her implementing herself and inserting herself in a lot of his projects and ruining everything is kind of odd. But she had to find that out for herself because she couldn't just take the word of a random woman that she don't really have that much rapport with.
And so I'm celebrating one day. It's the Olympics that didn't happen in 2020. It's the weird 2021, and I love the Olympics. And so I'm waiting for a burrito to come to my door, and I get a phone call from, like, unknown, which is probably a bill collector, I think. But hey, I'm riding high. So I answer the call, and it is from Banana's wife. And Banana's wife says, hey, I just had dinner with Locke and his wife. They say they're doing a show with you. And I said, yeah. And I, again, don't know how she got my phone number. So this seems urgent. And she says something that, like, chills go down my back. I never eat the burrito, spoiler alert. She says, I'm just calling you because I wish someone would have warned me. She does about an hour of a monologue at me about how, you know, she thinks that his wife is like Phil Hartman's wife. That she wouldn't trust her to hold a baby. That she once poured alcohol on her birthday cake and this person is sober.
Okay, so here is where you want to actually remove your biases, right? As this girl is sitting in between this, right? She has to make a career decision, like you said, 7-figure deal between Keegan, the taller gentleman, and whose wife is being said to be, you know, hard to work with, and then Jordan, whose wife is now on the phone with her, who just got her number, going on an hour-long tirade, unsolicited about someone else's wife. So again, if you remove how you feel about people and these individuals, that looks crazy professionally, like in any instance, right? So what should she be thinking in this moment that is in her best interest? And then also, does Jordan know this is happening? Does Jordan know his wife is going around calling clients and potential network, you know, people unsolicited, giving hour-long monologues about his friend's wife? So again, we don't know who married who for what reasons, or, you know, like he said, we don't know if they've been ride or die or whatever, but the immediate information is all we have to go with. And she has to make, like I said yesterday with Selena and Yolanda, split second navigational decisions around these people, because she's in the middle of getting a 7-figure deal and her name isn't on any of this.
And the thing and she says, there's no accounting for how much money she's cost that black man. And the light above the television burned out. This is a second red flag. I should take the hint. And so we just keep writing on it. Finally, we're in pre-production. This is like May 2023. And I'm excited. We're doing like a last meeting about going through the sketches. We're all feeling good about it. And for once, the wife joins the call. First of all, she comes on and then yells at everybody because she said she got the wrong Zoom, but everybody else was on the Zoom. Anyway, she's here to offer notes. Yeah, she has no credits without this man. Her notes are, comedy happens in threes. The letter K is funny. And finally, give the audience some candy.
So this is funny. So this is true. This is kind of what hip hop went through when they started to commercialize the product, right? People started to kind of study music and study how to sell records in a way that was more capitalistic than culturally relevant, right? Where if you knew in hip hop, right, like the lyrics mattered, who spoke it mattered, the the inflection and delivery mattered, and then as well as the beat and the music mattered, right? But then if you start to study it in like a formulaic type of perspective, then you'll start to get to a situation where, okay, people like this, do that. People react positively to this, do that. And then you remove all of the, what I call ugliness of nature, where you get to see like the mistakes of an artist or the trials and tribulation of trying to become an excellent musician and things like that, versus just skipping to the good part all the time, right? And so what Keegan's wife is exemplifying here is that she is trying to give what she calls notes, which are actually just talking points and probably comedy theory. And it doesn't work usually, especially when you phone it in over a call, but it doesn't work usually when you have to just implement the talking point as itself, right? So I'll give you an example of music, what that looks like, right? If you're improvising on a piece, right? If you're playing, let's say, the trumpet with this jazz group behind her, and you have to improvise your solo, and you suddenly go back to middle school where your teacher told you practice long tones, it'll make you a better player, and then suddenly you just start doing long tones in the middle of your solo, it would change how the solo comes out and how it feels to the audience. And more than likely, it wouldn't be as good as what it could be if you were actually trying to improvise and design something with a combination of these different tools that come from the talking point of doing long tones, okay? So when she says something like the letter K is funny, that could be true in a certain circumstance, but it has to be contextually sound with what they're working on, right? So just adding that within the, I guess, sketch or movie is not really going to make sense, right? So this is where you can get a lot of creative dissonance with people. I've seen it, again, my favorite example is with the Tribe Called Quest, is where the commercialization of hip hop started to look weird. Like people started to dress funny, talk funny, and instead of just being themselves, started to actually design music that sucked on purpose. So now you get a situation where somebody like her, who actually practices comedy, the wife of Keegan does not practice comedy. She's actually probably a writer and actually has done projects in multiple instances. The wife has not. And so now you're getting an instance of, well, who actually has the experience and who actually has the wisdom versus the person who has the leverage and who has, quote unquote, the understanding, right? So this has been a long fought controversy between experience and actual knowledge. So what she's showing here is that she's getting an example of why this entire network is toxic. But from her perspective, because I didn't even know she was involved in this video, but from her perspective, she has to navigate based on her own principles. And a lot of her principles she's willing to break and supersede because she's A, allowing this to happen. She's B, continuing to work with these people, and C, she's not addressing it. Like, for example, if she were to be willing to work with these people, you'd have to address this in order to make sure this is successful. But because she's probably detached emotionally from both the marriage as well as the project amidst her own independence, which is why she's doing stand-up comedy with a jazz band instead of sketch comedy, she probably has this level of employee to employer relationship to them and is not really feeling responsible for trying to fix this, right? So when we think about the person who's getting married, Jordan and Keegan, how much of that is in consideration when A, they're trying to get married, and then B, when they're in a situation like this? Because we're not seeing situations, at least from her perspective, of Jordan or Keegan saying anything. This is just the behavior of their spouses.
Now, how do you implement these notes?
If you haven't figured out by now, man, Get Out was written about Key and his wife, a black man with a white woman who runs his entire life. Now, fortunately for Key, right, his life is a disaster according to people around him, and she's running his life to the ground. Now, proof of this like micromanagement by Key's wife is this Instagram post, right? So this is from April 24th. Like, this brand that Key's partnered with is like writing about their partnership, and I've never seen nothing like this before. So they go, had a wonderful time speaking with Keegan-Michael Key about the creative genius of his part. What? Had a wonderful, so they're talking about the partnership, but they said had a wonderful time speaking with Keegan-Michael Key about the creative genius of his partner, the Ellie Key, who came up with this hilarious concept for the partnership with Orita. I'm like,
He is butchering this.
hold on, bruh. You're talking to one of the greatest like script writers, duos of this modern era.
So also this shows us too in a real life example of what I talk about when I say that how you look to people matters way more than what it is that you do, right? Because he stated that this is one of, I guess in his opinion, one of the greatest script writers, right? But that same person, one of the greatest script writers in his opinion, is now taking a judgment hit based on what his wife is presenting here. And honestly, this seems like not that big of a deal in the career sense of things, because this is a French frozen potato French fry company. So it's a commercial, right? And maybe his wife is like picking out business deals and stuff like that. And based on what this comedian is saying in the previous clip, she could be pretty much an alpha, like go-getter type, A-type personality. So that could be a thing, right? The issue that Keegan's going to have to deal with is what this reaction YouTuber is saying, is that he is actually the star. And I've told you guys about this, I think probably like a year ago on this channel, where most of the time when you're thinking about being an artist, you have to think of it from being the perspective of a superstar. Not some regular dude with a guitar, not some girl who wants to tell stories in front of a jazz band. You have to look at this like you're a superstar, because in the event that somehow you look like one to people, it will take almost anything for them to knock you back down, because fans are fickle. And people don't like hearing that because they themselves are fans of really great people and possibly superstars. But just think about how little it takes for you to then turn your back on them, right? Whether it's how you feel about this man's wife, whether you feel about frozen French fries, or however you feel about his comedy and his career, all of this is on the line, right? And it has nothing to do with his acting. Like, as much as he's trying to use his script writing ability here, it still doesn't take away, it's still, nothing is taken away from this post, from the fact that his wife helped him get this. But we have to navigate it as if it does, because how he feels about possibly marriage, or how he feels about, how the host feels, not Keegan, but how the host feels about marriage, and how the host may feel about Keegan-Michael Key's work.
And you're talking to him about his wife being a creative genius and not him. So this to me was all the clue we needed, that that everything this lady is saying is 100% true about that wife.
In a script that is a half hour long, has people attached, has a location, and we're all just like, sure, man, we'll add 3 Ks or something. I don't know. Like, one time she bragged on one of our calls about knowing Kristen Cinema. So I said, what that have to say for herself? She did not like that. Well, she didn't like that nobody laughed or thought her ideas were good, so she threatens to sue the network. Now let me pause there, because I brought a text.
Okay, all right. This went from comedy to a TED Talk to a story time on TikTok.
I brought something that was another red flag that I should have seen.
How much do you think the band is getting paid?
This is from Dumois, an anonymous blind item that someone submitted. They said, since Locke was hosting SNL, I wanted to say, whenever I see him, I can only think of his wife.
Okay, again, this is bad business. Why would you send this text to somebody?
She has a bunch of food allergies. And she had an allergy attack about a eucalyptus plant by her table at Tribeca Grill. And then, in parentheses, on the celeb sighting list. Acting like she couldn't breathe. The plant was fake, and I showed it to her. She just said, oh, and acted totally normal after that. He was very nice about it and apologized after. He left a good tip. Bizarre, though. Bizarre, though. And so she threatens to sue.
So a lot of what she's probably doing could be marked as, at least in my opinion, her weirdness combined with her desire to probably be successful in Keegan's eyes. Because what this looks and sounds like is a woman who probably was attracted to Keegan, probably has an interest in sketch comedy, but hasn't really pursued it to the level of Keegan, and is trying to live through him by an administrative position. We see that a lot with child stars. We see that with like athletes, their parents start to get involved and things like that. The thing that she has to understand though as a wife is that you're not the superstar, right? And that's a really hard pill for people who have an A-type personality to understand, like people who realize like the person you're married to is the star and you have to pretty much be the one to facilitate their success in order to get what you believe to be success. Otherwise, you need to do all of the work. You can't subsidize someone else's success, like your child, and then they become an NBA star, and then that NBA star then pays for your retirement. That's not how it works. And if it does work that way, then you've manipulated somebody to where you're getting the credit for their efforts, right? So the wife has to understand that. And if she doesn't understand that, then it's going to feel justified and vindicated in her mind, all of the success. And then she's going to feel like how she's explaining here, the failures are coming out of nowhere because she's not the one putting up the work, right? So for example, if Keegan went to a movie set and he wasn't funny and no one laughed, he understands why, because he's in the moment and he can go back and, go to the drawing board. His wife, on the other hand, doesn't have the experience, let alone the fortitude to withstand that level of criticism of, let's say, getting booed on stage because she hasn't done it. So now when a criticism comes along, it's almost like an injustification or an injustice, not justification, an injustice, right? She believes that you should laugh at this because K's are funny. You should laugh at this because the notes say so. But when you are actually producing and actually creating, you'll realize that a lot of it has to do with how people feel about you, similar to how the reaction YouTuber here feels that Keegan is a genius, right? Knowing that you're listening to a genius changes what this genius says, right? Knowing you're listening to an idiot changes what this idiot says, right? So she doesn't have that experience to know that from a comedian's perspective. She probably has that experience from more of a super fan's perspective, dating the comedian. Okay. And so now that she's actually having to apply what she knows and then actually deliver on money, the human side of things are starting to kick in, where you have to actually be culturally relevant. You actually have to have people like you. And then you also have to work in tandem of the power dynamic, meaning your husband is the star. Your husband is the one with the career, and he's the one that needs your assistance, right? And so because she's trying to nudge herself into the power position of specifically this career, and which is in turn their entire relationship, she's creating dissonance for the people that understand that dynamic a little bit better than her.
The company, she threatens to sue the vermin. And so for a month, we hear nothing. We're no longer in pre-production. We're waiting around. My dreams, the thing I...
So she's actually explaining kind of what I said in the beginning of this. Because of Keegan's wife's behavior and her deciding to sue Disney, as she's trying to hide here, everybody's career is on hold. Now, no one can pay bills. And if they have kids, their kids can't be fed and their insurance can't be paid and no one can get groceries, because of how she feels about people laughing at her jokes, which are jokes that she won't perform. And so we can say all of this, right? And then we could think how we feel about wives and spouses and women and husbands, right? But I want you to think about what she needs to do within, let's say, a week's time, and then also what Keegan needs to do within a week's time to solve for this. Many people are going to say, well, just leave her, just leave, just break up with her. Well, a part of that is kind of what we've seen happen with Selena and Yolanda. Doing the right thing can cost you your life, and then doing what you should do can also cost your life. That's the extreme version of it, right? The lighter version of it is what we actually are seeing right now, where they're actually no longer speaking to one another. So things still went wrong, no matter what the outcome could have been if he stayed with her or if he got rid of her, and she could have possibly, tanked the relationship, tanked the friendship, done whatever to just get revenge or whatever. And then there's the third possibility where for some reason, out of the magical dust of love, he decides he breaks off with this lady who's clearly disrupting the production, and she's okay with it, and she maturely breaks off evenly everything that she brought to the table.
Quit my dream job for. thinking I was gonna be ushered into the pop culture memory of the United States of America is on hold. And they get back to us after a month and they say, hey, we paid them off the project, but you have to write a whole new pilot. And I'm like, at this point, well, fuck, like, these are all our best ideas. And also, like, they're like, one day you can perform that for the internet, but like, we own the TV rights to that.
So she don't even get the rights to her idea anymore. The idea's tanked and you no longer get to perform what you actually, again, when you're thinking about like the girl who's on TikTok really practicing her instrument, or like the person who's in the street really trying to get their like notes and scales down, there's a point where you only get like that little window that Eminem was talking about on 8 Mile. A tiny little moment, right? And if anything goes wrong, it's gone, right? And in this instance, one of the reasons it went wrong was she's not in control of this. This is her idea, but it's being facilitated through a 7-figure deal with multiple other parties that she's not in control of. And then 2, there's just outside networking forces, like who she's continuing to network with. Multiple warning signs were given to her as far as this not being a good idea. She could have pulled her rights. She could have pulled her content. Like they said, you could do this on the internet, but right now they own it and she gave that away, right? So this experience, though I understand why she's sharing it, is a good lesson for people to understand what goes through the business in general. You can fault Disney, you can fault the writers, you can fault the wives or anything like that, but the very basis of this comes down to her decisions as a individual, as a free agent, right? If you were to change this industry from comedy or entertainment to sports, you would be like, well, why did you accept that team if you know that their coach was this volatile? Why didn't you pivot in some kind, you would ask these questions here. So that's all I'm showing you.
So we do what writers do. We come back together and we write a banger script, because we know that if the Vermin has nothing, they have IP. And we write a script that is filled with Muppets. We believe that we're gonna have something worth fighting for. And, we know that the strike is coming. It's in all of the papers. We all know that, like, there is this entertainment breakdown on the way, but we have like a few more weeks to just shoot the fucking pilot. And right before it happens, Bob Iger's come back, Bobby Gare, and he's got my dream in his hands. And he cancels every single show in production.
This is one example of how this lady just went out of her way to make this not work. Went out of her way because she was, I guess, not exalted to the top of whatever like creative direction they was at. She found a way to absolutely dismantle and destroy this partnership and relationship with Disney, Keegan, and Akilah in their particular show.
So now when you think about what's going on in the wife's head, for her, at least based on what we're hearing, ending the show, ending the relationships, and ending everybody's opportunity to work with Disney validates how she feels, right? But I want you to consider this. She's not the artist here. She's also not even the one to be considered a participatory party in this project, right? She was given that from her own husband. So now when we think about how he views her, he's not giving his side of the story. So we don't know if like people are saying she's the controlling one, or if he's the one who just thinks it's his idea and it just, maybe he's just not thinking that way, who knows? But because we don't know his side of the story, we have to look at it for what it is, right? And so now we're looking at literally a woman who has single-handedly, by this person's account, destroyed a project and then soured a relationship between her own husband and his best friend and their wife, right? Now, mind you, there's been flags before this, so that's why I'm trying to figure out, how does Keegan view his wife in this instance? So for many of you, you're going to say, all right, they should just break up and they should just, do the right thing. Like I said, the odds of them just maturely doing that has been shown through statistics, right? And then also on the other end, the amount of leverage that you probably have given a person at this point for them to be able to pull this off and feel comfortable doing this leads me to believe that if you were to try and separate from them, it would probably cost more than it would to have never been with them in the first place. So that's why it's hard to have this conversation without Keegan's perspective, which is why divorce lawyers get all that juicy information and stuff. But what we can see here is that it plays a heavy toll in your career, meaning like you could lose a friendship, but then you can also lose possibly the biggest moment in your career simply because of how your spouse felt about their input in your career. So as an artist and as an entertainer or musician and things like that, how much leverage do you think you should give your spouse in terms of things, right? Because even the YouTube host here, he mentioned earlier, like the wife wasn't the day one wife, right? Wasn't with me from the beginning, right? And there's a subjective belief that if you were to get in the relationship early, that you deserve some kind of return on, I guess, investment in time, right? But let's say that investment in time doesn't amount to anything until you're in your 50s or 40s, like a Keegan or something like that, right? And now it's time to actually perform all of the things you've learned from a young man to a middle-aged man to now a adult, senior, upstanding citizen man. And now it's time to get your, your payment in society for your skills and talents. How much does your spouse's existence play a role in that, right? Because we can all tangibly measure, like if your wife does accounting, or if like your husband pays, for your gas to get you to and from events and shows and things like we can count that, right? There's bank statements for that. But when it comes to what he said about just being a day one, how do we even know that that matters to the industry, right? We know it matters to people who love you and care about you, but he's saying this about someone else's wife in the sense of, well, I see why, she's not even the day one, so why would you do that? But he's saying that about somebody he's not married to. So it goes to show you how people view your marriage and how people view your position as a spouse, if you're a spouse watching this. And so the role you play for people who we deem, we as in society, to be successful or superstars matters this heavily. It matters this much to where you could tank or destroy everything. Like people try to use extreme examples, like Kobe's wife sitting with him through the rape allegations, Denzel Washington's wife being like basically a consistent figure for him and things like that. There's a lot of like celebrities we like to go to for examples, but we don't really get the in-depth understanding of why they chose to behave the way they did, outside of trying to project maybe the length of time they've known each other or what we feel like to be an amount of money spent. But when you see a situation like this where it goes wrong, that same logic doesn't track. Now suddenly she's been there forever, so does it make sense for her to have the leverage to destroy your company and your business relationships?
You hear this, is no surprise why Jordan Peele has not included Key in any of his larger projects. He probably is steering clear of them. If he wrote Get Out based on the life of Key, he's looking at this like, man, listen, man, my wife hates her. My wife called this lady to one. My wife hates her due to things she did to my wife. Plus, if we include...
And it goes the other way too. Like you can even see with what he just explained, Jordan's wife is influencing his business decisions on what he's writing for his career, which is then making him, I guess you can in a way say, target his own friend based on how she feels about his friend's wife. Again, has nothing to do with their acting skill. It's not like Keegan was late to work. These are not the things that people are saying. People are saying Keegan is a great guy. He's awesome. But look at what's happening to him.
Keegan, anything, she's about to step in and ruin it for us. Imagine how many projects she ruined for Jordan Peele based on this. Now, other people have came out the woodworks and they have given their experiences with Key and his wife. One user wrote in a thread about, Key and Peele, okay, I am glad I am not the only one on the hate train.
Okay, we got to take a grain of salt note because we are on the internet. This is a faceless, no-name profile saying this, so just take that with a grain of salt.
And he is estranged from most, if not all of his friends and most of his family. Most of us blame her. This is a friend of Key. The first minute he brought her back to Detroit, she was cutting him off from the people he knew before under the guise of protecting him from the people that want to use him for his fame. Sure, his oldest friends and his brother using him, excuse me, it makes me so sad for him and furious at her. And for
So that can be true. She could be right, and then she could also be projecting. We, again, do not know. But the point here is that, do you see how much leverage everybody is placing upon this woman for this man's career outcome? Just pay attention to that part.
For all intents and purposes, from anybody who knows him, says he's one of the nicest people ever. Like, we even see him like having conversations, like candid conversations off camera where he's not even knowing he's on camera, and he's really, really, really polite. And I just feel I feel so bad for this dude, man. Right? That this is like his reality. Yo, he acquired his fame well before this lady. And for her to step in and claim that she wants to protect him from people who want to use him for his fame, and then being a reason why he's estranged from a lot of his old friends and his brother, and now Jordan Peele and Key is supposed to be like a freaking powerhouse right now. Since Jordan Peele got the green light to write a great movies and have any budget he want to have, him and Key should be doing like big things right now. But this lady is in the way,
and that's pretty much gonna be his thing to navigate. And like he was saying, he's really polite and he's a nice guy. And this is the hard part that I see with people that are honestly very nice, very timid. It doesn't take much to upset them. Like if somebody's tone rises and suddenly you feel sad, like if you don't have the fortitude to withstand that, then you're not going to be able to withstand, let's say, a wife trying to divorce you or something like that, right? Or you're not going to be able to withstand your friend's wife trying to divorce you from your friend's relationship, like how Jordan and Keegan are. Because even in this one story, like I said, we don't have Keegan's perspective or even Jordan's perspective, but we have everybody's perspective about how it is to work with them. So now when we're considering that, we have to think, well, if the wife is seeing this, wouldn't she be able to logically look at this and then learn from this and then change her behavior in order to save the success of her husband, right? Most people would consider that. Well, the issue is that when we think that way, we remove what I'd like to call the natural phenomenon of the human experience, right? The wife feels as though the people closest to her husband are parasites. And she feels validated for whatever reason. So her behavior is coming from a place of, in her mind, a good, righteous area. Keegan may be feeling like, oh, maybe she's right. Maybe I'm kind of like believing her. We don't know that. But then even if he did have the type of way to feel like, oh man, that's not right. Or I do prefer to, work this out with Jordan. I don't really want to lose my friend. For him to do that means for him to come out of character, that of which the wife may be used to. But we don't know. This is all me just speculating on random things, right? But yes, that's a very good insight on how like the behavior of you as a spouse or the behavior of your friend's spouse can affect even you, and then the behavior of your boss's spouse or maybe your coworker's spouse. And so it's very, 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 very important to pay attention to that. Mind you, the story we learned from the comedian, she did ignore a lot of red flags. But again, like I said about the human phenomenon or the human experience, she saw the money, she saw the opportunity and figured, like most people, it'll work itself out, and it didn't. And she wound up wasting her time and only just got this TikTok story time to tell. So let's get into the next clip and let's see what we get into. Now, the next clip is a little better in terms of getting down this same point, but we're going to be analyzing the long-term impact of spousal gatekeeping on intellectual property and the inheritance rights that you'll get. And so most of the time when we think of like inheritance and stuff like that, we think of like kids or like, the babies and stuff like that. But you got to think about, like, let's say if you're going to be writing off rights, if you're going to be giving away power and leverage, who's going to be in control, and the characteristics of the people you give in control. So let's get into the next clip.
If you weren't on good terms at that point.
Yeah, I was very lucky because we sort of got it back together, and it was beautiful. I would ring him or go see him in New York.
Had the four of you ever gotten together since the Beatles broke up? Had there ever been a time where you were all four in the same room, like actually doing something together?
No.
Never?
No, not really.
Because the business was so bitter. It was like at the end, the breakup with the lawyers. I heard a crazy story that, and I don't know if it's true. So you're about to put out the McCartney solo album. The Beatles are done. The Beatles decide to put out Let It Be. Ringo this is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Comes to your house
Yeah.
with a letter from John and George and Ringo
Uh-huh.
saying you are not to put out your McCartney album at the same time we're putting out a Beatles album.
Yeah.
But Ringo hand delivers this.
I know.
You took him and threw him right out of the fucking house.
I did.
Yes.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I don't blame you.
it was bad enough that we were splitting up.
Yeah.
It was bad enough that all that money we'd earned and all that fame was going down the pan.
Yes.
And there was this guy who was going to take it all. And it was that close.
Yes.
And I was having to fight. I said, no, guys, we can keep it. We don't have to give it to this guy, you know. And as Ringo delegated to come around to me and tell me, because my release date was firmly fixed.
Yes.
And everyone knew this was the release date. So I was going, okay, well, this is okay.
Yeah.
And then they come around, Ringo comes around and he says, no, you won't.
With his legal paper.
Fuck off! Get out of
So yeah, basically he's saying like, while they're working on the Beatles, he's working on his own McCartney album, right? And this kind of shows you, similar to the comedian that we seen in the last clip, how you have to be the source of a lot of your creativity, right? So yes, he had the ability to make a McCartney album, but I think because of the rights he may have had with the Beatles, that was able to be used as a conflict of interest between what he's trying to do and then what the Beatles are trying to do. So clearly, like, let's say if the Migos, the rap group Migos, have a group album coming out, and then suddenly Takeoff wants to do a solo album and no one else is doing anything else, what could possibly happen is that the attention, the marketing, real estate, and all that stuff could be conflicted, and the marketing could be confusing because they don't know if they're listening to a Migos album or a Takeoff song or whatever's going on, right? So to make all that simple, usually businesses, in this instance a band, would streamline all of the identity that comes with all the music and all the musicians within it, right? That way, if you do want to do something solo, it would have to be very, very different and very unique. So that way we don't confuse things. But him being so closely connected to the band and probably having such heavy influence and affiliation with the band probably led to some clear discrepancies and probably predictions of everybody's bottom line getting checked or moved around a bit. So they wanted to keep that understood and very clear. So now when we're thinking about like quote unquote marriages in a relationship, these contracts and things like that have to be not really super convoluted, but they have to be well thought out. Like you have to, like, even when I was in a band, we had to think about like, okay, who's going to write music? And the conversation about the writing perspective or the position people play in a band, you can give people the full spectrum. Like you can tell them, here's the potential of what you could make, here's what work you need to do and what effort, and here's the industry standards. You're still going to be met with the why should I do it, or I don't see myself doing it, or I could make more money doing XYZ, right? So then what you'll wind up running into more so are people that find value in the opportunity and not necessarily the passion of the job. So you'll get a situation like Keegan's wife, where she may see the opportunity in being a very successful comedian and sketch writer, but her passion in understanding it, networking with the people, and being of a cultural fit doesn't really work. And then with Paul McCartney's situation, you're not really going to be in a situation where you can control everything if you're not going to be the one to, from the beginning, leverage the fact that your name is going to be what you're going to be banking on, not necessarily this band. So it's a tough thing to think about, but it is also a thing that you have to consider because of how heavily you will be impacted later. Like he's throwing people out of his house, she's losing 7-figure deals, so you have to really consider this. So let's get into our third clip here, and this is going to be more so about I guess you can say a more positive outlook on things. I believe so.
Which is a little different than when you think about a traditional endorsement deal. So maybe walk us through how you thought about this.
Well, my new partnership with Marks is a one-of-a-kind deal. In pop and rock, you can see other artists that maybe have endorsements or sponsorships. This is different. This is a lifestyle that my wife and we live, and we just get a chance to talk about it now. I love the brand. I love the partnership that we've got because these are clothes that fit with within what we do. But one of the biggest things is that it is one of the best brands in Canada that's got over 400, almost 400 stores across Canada, and they've been leading the way for people who work hard like me. It's just the epitome of what's great to be a Canadian, all wrapped up in denim and shirts and boots. And I'm very happy that I maybe just get to be the face of it for a while.
So this is actually interesting. This is Brett Kissel, and he's a country music star from Canada. So I wonder how that works, because I actually don't know much about the Canadian frontier, and like that probably does have an interesting look. He has like the typical country star look. You can kind of hear it in his accent. He's a little bit northern. He ain't got really much of that like deeper timbre you hear a lot of Southerners have, but he did mention how the deal he has is more of a lifestyle deal that him and his wife are able to work within, right? So keep that in mind as we hear this.
It's just the epitome of what's great to be a Canadian, all wrapped up in denim and shirts and boots. And I'm very happy that I maybe just get to be the face of it for a while.
Does it become as important to know what to say no to as what you say yes to when it comes to the opportunities in front of you?
To a degree, I feel very lucky that, you know, people are knocking on our doors now to be influencers for certain products or certain things, but there's a realness and an authenticity to country music and to my brand. So partnering with Mark's made perfect sense. It's exactly what I do, exactly who I am. Other things might not be believable, and that's very important for me as an artist, to be believable and be authentic to my fans who've helped me get to this point and will help me get to higher points.
So as he's explaining it, it sounds like he's kind of what I would call a country music enthusiast. Because he's an award-winning country star, but I don't really understand his affiliation with country music outside of maybe the experience he's had, maybe, you know, his wisdom with it and things like that. So I'm not really sure how to judge him as a musician off of just this one interview. He's probably a really good musician, but what we're judging here is what he said about how he chooses what deals are coming to his door and things like that. A part of what he's explaining here isn't really highlighted, but I do notice that he's saying that the people are coming to him, right? So he's not necessarily doing what the comedian was doing in the first clip, where it's kind of like, I'm looking for opportunities based on what's offered. It seems like he had his own thing going on, and people around him seen the value and then approached him to then make more opportunities.
Be believable, and that's very important for me as an artist, to be believable and be authentic to my fans who've helped me get to this point and will help me get to higher points.
So you're an artist first and foremost, but I see an entrepreneur. Would you describe yourself as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I like to maybe coin, I feel like I'm a very artistic entrepreneur. Brett Wilson is a guy that I've looked up to for many years. He's a partner, he's a friend, he's an uncle to our kids, he's a best buddy, he's a dad to me. He's a guy.
Notice how he explained being an entrepreneur versus being, let's say, passionate about music, right? What that kind of did for him, I don't know this to be true because he didn't say it, but what it probably did being an entrepreneur is it gave him a little bit more life to live. Whereas we seen yesterday where the girl was saying how when she went on tour and the tour ended, she really didn't have much else to think about or to worry about her. So she felt kind of like lost in a bit, right? So him being an entrepreneur, it probably allows him to look at music from a business perspective, look at all the opportunities that come from music, but also look at his relationships differently. Because let's say in our last example with Keegan's wife, she probably looks at business relationships as a one track or one way you help me type of relationship. Whereas an entrepreneur, the more successful entrepreneurs look at their relationships as a how can I help you more perspective. And this is another thing I see artists struggle with, because even like little piano players that play at churches and stuff like that, they're demanding income, right? And it's not unreasonable to ask for money, but you got to think about how much value you can negotiate with the income, right? And so for him, he probably looked at music as a vehicle to be maybe a person to express his love for music and country music, but it brought people so much value that now they want to offer him deals, right? Versus him saying, I'm a country star, pay me what I deserve. I've put out 4 albums this year, pay me what I've deserved. He's actually delivering on services almost unsolicited when it comes to music, because, you know, musicians, we just create. But as an entrepreneur, you pretty much look for ways to help people, look for problems to solve, and then people are willing to pay you for consistency. And for him, being in music, it could be marketing, it could be influence, it could be the emotions and, you know, good feelings you get from listening to music. But overall, he's looking at it as an entrepreneur, which helps him understand probably his own marriage, the marriage he has with his network, and who he works with a lot better than those who look at everything from I need to win perspective, or a very selfish perspective.
Guy who's taught me more about being an entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial spirit that it takes to be Canadian and be successful here. And I really take all those lessons to heart. And that's why with this partnership, with everything that I do in my records, with how I perform on stage, how I carry myself, Brett has a huge part to play in that.
So the farm boy, I feel, is still there to a certain degree.
Yes.
That's something, you know, I hear that you're still helping out from time to time
Yes.
when you can. Maybe you don't want to let go of that in a lot of ways because it helps you to be who you are.
For sure. And it's hard to, well, I never would let go, but it's hard to preach this way of life growing up on the farm and the cattle ranch, and it's a part of me, it's in my blood. But I'm traveling on the road and I'm so busy that now it seems the more songs I write about the farm, the further away I get from it and from my friends and all the people that have been influential in the early years. You talk about Brett Wilson, there's another very good friend of mine, grew up in St. Paul, is a self-made man that I really looked up to. His name is Real Michaud, and he works with a great company, his own financial company, but he's a guy that grew up on the farm the same way that I did, and we went out to chase our dreams, and now we're trying to get back to the farm. That's one of my big goals. Brett has the same thing, being from North Battleford. I'm from Flat Lake. We want to get back home, yet our businesses are taking us elsewhere.
That's a great point, because you kind of see the same situation with the Keegan story. Keegan's performance got him so far from home that now home is looking for him, in a sense, right? And we, again, don't know it to be true, because that conversation can be, you know, a little bit biased depending on who's talking about it. But in Brett Kissel's experience here, he's showing that, like, a lot of what he's doing that made him who he was in the beginning, which is probably a Canadian country boy, has now led him to be more of a successful businessman. So how does he pull from those, like, real authentic places to still deliver on who he believes himself to be? Well, a part of what usually happens with these situations of, let's say, like the Paul McCartney situation or the Keegan wife situation, is that people change and people's perspectives on things change, but it has to change for the sake of the business or the sake of the relationship or the sake of their own individual agenda, right? And so for him, he's trying to navigate this authenticity to his audience, which could, in a sense, hinder the business side of things, which is why when Keegan's wife was coming there saying K's are funny, she's looking at things from the business side, not the authentic side. And so these are things you have to navigate. But again, the part of him, Brett Kissel here, knowing that comes from his foundation, like he said, with his mentors as entrepreneurs. But it also shows that he understands who he's been, I guess you can say, close to for his foundation. Like, some people aren't as close to their mom and their dad, so then when they do leave home and get success, the ideals we expect them to have for a person who did grow up with their mom and dad aren't there, and so it looks different. The ideals of a wife may look very different if the wife has never been understood to be of assistance to what the superstar needs versus her being on her own or single or dealing with things like that. Same with a husband. Sometimes husbands don't realize, you know, you have to curtail a lot of what you're doing for a family, and not to the detriment of the business, but just for the success of the business, you know?
So you said taking a risk is a real opportunity. It's a big opportunity, certainly in your music. In terms of the evolution of your life as this entrepreneur as well, what else are you thinking about over the next 5-6 years?
Well, I might be one of the few artists who have that 5, 6 to 10 year plan. And a lot of it has to be with expanding globally. What's going on for me here in Canada has been amazing and beyond my wildest dreams. But now that that's a dream or a goal that I've achieved, our goal is to take this brand and, in a sense, maybe franchise what is Brett Kissel, to talk about myself in third person. I know my music can work in America. I believe my music can work in Europe. I believe my music can work in Asia. So with that said, those are our goals, is to take that to the next level, which is why we needed a diverse record to open those doors. Because if you really love rock and country, boom, I've got some for you. If you love traditional country, like in certain markets in Europe, we've got that for you with a duet with one of the greatest legends of all time, and Charlie Pride. Our goal was to set ourselves up to succeed in every market where country music could be popular around the world.
Dope. I like it, and it pretty much shows a lot of what people are expecting from successful musicians. But like he slightly touched on it. He was like, the things he's working on are lifestyle choices for him and his wife, right? And if you notice, when it comes to how he's talking about his decisions, they come from him, at least from this little snippet here, right? So that's the key thing. You want to be in control of everything when it comes to your creativity. And if you're willing to leverage it out, just understand what it is you're leveraging and, you know, be willing to do so. So let's get into our next clip.
Yeah, I don't mean to harp on Yoko, but the thing that bothers me is the way John didn't provide in a will for Julian. I feel like he's the son who's always left out. And I've had Julian on the show many times, and I'm angry for him. I feel that he didn't get a share of John's wealth.
He didn't get John.
He didn't get John.
No,
he didn't get a share of John's wealth. And I think that while money isn't everything, it would have been at least a way of a father to remember his son and to take care of him.
Plus, just like Paul says, he would like to leave some of his things
to his kids.
And Julian doesn't have that either.
And why was Yoko not inviting Julian to this tribute? Why is it always Sean? I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
I really do, Hal, but the thing is, tell you the truth, I really don't want to get into that.
Oh, I do.
Because I know you do. And you know what? If we weren't with 6 million listeners, I might talk to you, baby.
Really?
But I'm not going on there in public doing
You don't
that
want to
stuff.
ruin your whole relationship with Yoko right here,
Really
and then
don't.
you know?
Exactly.
To me, if you
Wow. So what they're talking about is how there wasn't a will written for John's son, and how Yoko wasn't inviting Julian to like different events and things like that. Now they're asking Paul McCartney, which is interesting because they're probably just digging for information at this point. But it is another indication on how you're supposed to pay very close attention to who it is you marry to, who it is you do business with, and things like that, right? Now, as far as like the son getting something left behind, that could be a different conversation. We can talk about finances and wills and stuff like that in another video. But it does kind of show you, again, another situation where artists aren't really thinking about ownership. They're not really thinking about wealth building, wealth maintenance, estate building, and things like that. It's not a priority for them, or at least at the beginning, right? And so when we talk about the Yoko Ono situation with the Beatles, a lot of it comes down to the similar things we've seen with Keegan, is that there's a human experience that's affecting how their decision making is being interpreted in their own mind, right? They think if I marry this girl that likes me or that I really, really like, it's going to be successful, period, right? And that's not necessarily the case. And you'd have to understand that, because sometimes you could like a girl like Keegan who wants the best for you but doesn't know how to do it. You can like a girl like Yoko Ono who doesn't really know what she's doing, but you really, really like her. And in a sense, she doesn't really need to know what to do. She's her own person. So that's why you have to be that much more careful to include your spouse into the works you do. A lot of times your spouse is going to want to help you out and assist you or get in control or learn about the business, and it's not going to help. There's really no point. Like there's no reason to do that, because their passion isn't in it to take the L's that come with losing a 7-figure deal. And their passion isn't in it to be graceful enough to say that maybe my ego is getting in the way and people don't necessarily like working with me. So let's get into our last topic for the morning, and then I will get you guys on your way so that way we can get some lunch out this bitty. So our last topic here is actually, again, another positive one, where we're going to be able to see like the more successful side of getting married.
We've been watching the fame, but missing the billions behind it. Because everybody thinks they are rich because of music, but honestly, that's not even the main source. Let's talk about the power that as normal human beings we don't see. Because whenever we think of celebrities' wealth, all we picture is tours, headlines, and that flashy lifestyle. But the real money is quieter.
So we're going to get into how Beyonce and Jay-Z utilized a bit of their marriage influence to make themselves more money. One of the things I do want to go into this thinking is, or at least laying a foundation of, is that the idea of wealth doesn't come from, I guess you can say, just unmitigated abundance. Okay, the idea of wealth comes from very strategic investing and very strategic understanding of finances. Okay, you can't just do a lot of things and then you're just wealthy. You can't just have a lot of money and you're just wealthy. You have to be able to maintain it, grow it, and then repeat, systems and stuff like that. That is what wealth looks like.
It's ownership. It's all behind the stage's light, behind the fame. So there is a strategy, there is a system on it. So in today's episode, we are going to step into that strategy. We are breaking down Jay-Z and Beyoncé combined $3.5 billion fortune and the companies which are quietly building that empire.
Multiple companies.
So as you know, this is Billionaires Africa and this is Mariam Keza, and today we are digging deep into wealth, strategy, and the empires behind the fame. So here is something most of people miss. Jay-Z and Beyoncé, they didn't just succeed in music. They built infrastructure because they made their album become the marketing and the tours become their cash flow and influence. And the real wealth, it compounds through companies and equity. So let's start off with the headlines. Jay-Z is estimated at $2.5 billion. Meanwhile, Beyoncé is estimated at $1 billion.
Okay, so these are headlines, so take it with a grain of salt. They're usually wildly inaccurate because we don't know their statements and their wealth or where they're getting money from. So they're just, you can honestly erase these numbers from your head, but just know that these are just headlines.
And together roughly made $3.5 billion. So here is something more important. Not everything is public. Some ownership sits behind private structures. And the major pillars, it's all this they put on public we see. So let's start with Jay-Z. Because his strategy isn't just about success, it's about control. Firstly, it's Roc Nation. And no, this is not about music company. It's all about management, a record label, a publishing, a touring strategy, and a brand partnership even in sports. So you can think of it like this. He's controlling relationships and controlling pipelines. And next one,
that's the greatest point of this, is that he's controlling relationships and pipelines, right? He's not controlling your masters. He's not controlling hip hop or reggaeton or soccer or football, whatever you want to call it. He's controlling the system that he has access to and possibly the network he has access to.
Expanded even more into sports. Roc Nation represents athletes, contract, endorsement, and brand deals. And here is the real move. Music and sports share attention, and attention is money. The next one is Arrive, the venture platform. Not always visible, not always public, but more strategic. This one, it backs growing companies while adding something most investors can't, like culture and influence. Then comes Marzipan Capital Partners. This one is an investment firm focused on culture adjacent sectors like customer brands, lifestyle, and tech. So instead of promoting a product, he owns pieces of them. And now we are stepping into more luxury economy. This is where we find Armand de Brignac champagne, the gold bottle.
Do you see all the different companies he's getting hands in? Now, the thing is, we're having a conversation about marriage, right? But he's being very, very strategic about what businesses he works with, how they align with his interests, how they align with his own personal culture and things like that. And so what I see a lot of artists do is they want everyone to adhere to their personal culture, and that's not going to work. What Jay-Z is showing is that he has very, very specific niche interests, and he's just investing into what's successful. So now when you get a situation like that, then you have a conversation about, well, who do I work with? What does it look like? And all that stuff. Who should I marry and things like that? Does this person I'm marrying understand what it is that I'm building here and all that stuff? Will they destroy it if they get mad? Are they the type of person to destroy everything, which would just blow everything up? Or are they a mature person who, when things aren't going their way, can just cut things off civilly? You have to figure all that out, and you got to be strategic. And you got to really weigh the option of training someone to get to that point, or whether or not they should already be ready made to do that. So when we look at all these different companies that he's working with, pay attention to how they are functioning. So relationships and pipelines when it comes to music, culture and influence when it comes to venture and capitalism, as well as technology and sports. So these are the things he's personally interested in, but they're also being facilitated through his investing.
Bet we all know those gold bottles you see in music, you see in the best bars on the world. Like, you find it not all places, most luxurious places. On this one, Global Partners buys a major stake, but Jay-Z keeps ownership. Like, you may ask yourself why. Because distribution scales the brand, but equity keeps wealth. And then we have Douce Cognac. This one is the same model, but is a major spirit company handle scale, where Jay-Z keeps a significant stake. Meanwhile, it's a less operational pressure and more focuses on brand and equity. And now let's head to the Queen Beyoncé. This one have a different energy, but the same strategy. Starting off with number one, which is a Parkwood Entertainment, which is her backbone. And this one is not all about music only. It's about management, content production, films, and tours.
So she has her own version of Rock Nation called Parkwood Entertainment. And what I mean by her own version is you can see how it slightly differs in that it's not so much, sports centered. It's more about the artist, film, and the creative side of entertainment. Whereas Rock Nation seems to be more side about the business and management and distribution side of things. But she essentially has the exact same thing as him in her own version, right? So he married a woman who has the type of personality to be a Destiny's Child singer and then a Beyonce. How he figured that out, I don't know. You got to have conversations with people and know how to, learn these things. She also is the type of person to then run successfully her own tours and businesses alongside his own, meaning she's not trying to take leverage like Keegan's wife, and she's also not disrupting things like a Yoko Ono. That's a very, very specific type of person, that of which most people are not. And so when we think about that and we consider all the bad things and good things that happen with marriages for our artists and our favorite artists, they have to navigate that level of scrutiny when it comes to this level of success. And we don't place that upon the spouse. We place that upon the artist. So if Keegan gets a divorce or something like that, he has to deal with all of the consequences of it, but we will blame Keegan for everything. And that's the part that most artists struggle with, because you're going to pick somebody you like, or somebody that really, really likes you is going to probably put the most pressure on you to be in a relationship. But they also have to be the type of person to look at a situation like this and then know how to navigate it.
And everything flows into one system. Fewer middlemen, stronger negotiating power, and better margins. Then we have Secret. This is a well-known hair care brand, but more importantly, it's a recurring venue. So obviously a tour could end, but a routine, that's something repeats itself monthly, yearly, every day, because that is the meaning of beauty. Next one, we have...
So what she's saying is that when you get into the beauty industry, similar to, like I say, with selling pianos, the beauty industry sells lifestyle, and the part of this lifestyle is the routine of like beautifying yourself, getting up in the morning, making yourself look pretty, or winding down at night. Those products are going to be constant money makers because there's a demand for those lifestyles. You don't really have a demand for like a specific makeup or toner or whatever, but you do have a desire and a demand for healthy skin.
Sarah Davis. You might hear this one a lot. This is a premium whiskey built with a global luxury partner. This one is not about fame. It's all about distribution, retail access, and pricing discipline. And then we have a quiet place investment like a Lemon Perfect. Lemon Perfect, this is a minority stake. And yes, it's a low visibility, but it's a high upside. You may ask yourself, what is the real lesson here is? The real lesson here is Jay-Z and Beyoncé didn't treat fame as a product. They treated it as a distribution, ownership, equity, and infrastructure. And that's how wealth compounds. If you want more breakdowns like this, like wealth, luxury, and the system behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe on billionaires.africa.
That's pretty cool. I like how she broke that down. But yeah, she's absolutely right in terms of like it's a basic understanding that these are infrastructures and systems that you have to utilize for your success. I'm explaining it that way because if your spouse doesn't know that, then should they have the leverage to then control that? That's why I showed that or highlighted that in the first clip where the YouTube host was saying, well, she's not his day one, so I don't see why. Well, when does a day one get the leverage to control your career? Or how does a day one get the leverage to control your career? And so that's why looking at Jay-Z and Beyoncé is always going to be a specific case study, because both the husband and the spouse have their own lanes, that of which they're building, I would assume, parallel to one another, you know? So let me know what you guys think. That was our stream for today, and we're gonna get cracking for lunch and get the day started. So I will see you guys the next time. This is Musician Talks with DameSmiff, and we talked about marriage as a musician and in entertainment, what can go wrong, what can go right, and how to make things